Welcome to Dropped In, Kimberly. I am so excited to have you here and to share you with my Dropped In community.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes. So before we drop in, I would love for you to share who you are, what you do, and why you're so passionate about the work that you do.
I'm kind of hard to fit in a box, but probably the most appropriate for your audience would be I've been a naturopath for a long, long time, over 20 years. I've had a clinical practice. I've developed and built medical technology. I work almost exclusively with frequency now. And I've come really away from the old-fashioned kind of even alternative medicine where you give a lot of supplements. I still use supplements, but it's more about, holistic mind, body, spirit, lifestyle, um, balancing everything into homeostasis instead of just focusing kind of on the body.
Mhm.
And I teach consciousness. I'm not sure I do so many things. I'm not sure what to tell you, but that's the gist of it.
I love it. I love it. And so, how did you get into the line of work? Like initially, how did you get into naturopath and then advancing into the work that you do today?
Sure. I mean, kind of like, I don't know, typically like in the health field, a lot of people come through their own suffering. And I was, kind of the same way. I always struggled with anxiety and depression, not like severe, but kind of low level. It really affected my life. I never felt relief, even in alternative treatments. So I just kept driving further and further and further down that road until I discovered biofeedback and applied kinesiology, and then just could really drill down to the root, because I believe you can solve almost anything in any area, not just health, if you get down to the root of it. You have to know what's wrong to fix what's wrong. And so
Hmm.
I'm really passionate about the bottom, like discovering the bottom, of anything out of balance in my clients, and then working, from there. And I know you understand that with the work that you do.
Very much so. It's always getting to the root of the matter. That's for sure. That's for sure. So I love that you are in the field of biofeedback. My aunt, who I just adore, actually was in the field of biofeedback as well. So for those that don't know what biofeedback is, can you share with us what it is and how it serves?
Sure. The way I explain it is that we're like a radio tower and we're broadcasting 100% of the time everything going on with us. So, and everything's like color and sound, everything drills down to frequency. All frequencies can be read. So we're broadcasting just like a radio station, these frequencies, my parasites, my diseases, my childhood fears, if you believe in past lives, my past lives, my relationships, like absolutely everything, my thoughts, my programming, the condition of my organs, condition of my nervous system, on and on. It's just all being broadcast. And so the difference between someone like me and someone like my next door neighbor is I can capture that broadcast and, have it like in data points and then make a lot of conclusions from there.
Very cool. Very cool. So how did you discover this line of work? Because it's
Sure.
definitely, yeah, it's very unique.
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. So I had all my children, I had with a midwife and a couple different midwives, but the same one for my last children, 4 girls. And so I was still struggling with postpartum depression a little bit, and she's giving me all these herbs, and she's like, you know what? She goes, I know someone that might be able to help you. And she said she lives way back in the hills of Ohio. She has no certifications, no training. She just has this machine. So I'm like, like when you don't feel well, you're like desperate. So I'm like, let's go. I don't care. I don't care. I'm just going. So I drove to her house, and it was the old style. So like the biofeedback machines they have in chiropractic offices. I'm sure some of your audience is familiar with that, where you hold the copper thing. And so I took that copper thing in my hand, and the second it touched my hand, I heard this voice in my head that said, one day you will have one of these machines and help thousands of people. Well, I actually ended up having two of those machines and helping thousands of people. So the voice was a little off. But yeah, that was really, there's those, what do they call them? Sliding doors moments where your whole trajectory of your life changed. My first sliding door in my career was a man that said, you have a great voice, you'd be great in broadcasting. I went into radio and made it in radio in Chicago when I was 20. And then I think this is one of my second sliding doors moments where that encounter with her, I mean, I'm still using the technology today. So, years and years later. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's so cool. I love it. I love it. So how specifically, because you can do this anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in North Carolina where you are, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, and I think the world has opened up and we're a lot more awakened or conscious than we used to be, all of us, not just, you know, me or you. And we know, or we're told, or we hear that there is no time, all time is now, there is no space, you know, this is quantum physics. And so all space is now. So, and it's exactly like you and I are talking. Like, how are you and I talking? Like, you're in where you are, and I am where I am. And how is that even possible? But it is, because there is no time and space, and it's the same exact possibility. You and I can connect, you know, vision and voice, and I can connect your frequencies the same way.
Very cool. Very cool. So if someone were to come to work with you, what what are you most passionate about helping people with?
Wow. Oh, what am I most, you know, I really love the hard cases. I had a woman come to me, and she had a beautiful, beautiful upper teenage autistic son whose life was just so bound up in his, you know, mind and his body. And you understand, kind of pretty severe. Um, and when I looked at him, of course, I deal with the spiritual too. So I deal with things like people might not be as familiar with, maybe they are if they're religious, like possession. So I deal with all of it, you know, the energies inside the body, outside the body, you know. And so I saw that he was kind of being troubled by some kind of dark energies. We took care of that. I gave the mom a list of recommendations, you know, let's get rid of the heavy metals, let's change the diet, on and on, you know, multiple recommendations. Most people don't do them. Compliance isn't always high. Even with passionate, caring people, it's hard. Money, time, ritual, you know.
Mhm.
But this beautiful mother, you know, you know, she's like, I'm going to do it. And to my shock and amazement, she did it. And she actually just wrote me a letter, and she's like, you won't believe it, my son is now in school, he actually has a friend, he's happy. And I'm like, what? Like, who is this child? And so I'm really passionate about that kind of like big transformation. Like, I want to I want to be the person that is like that watershed moment that changes everything for you.
I have full body shivers. That's incredible.
Oh,
Like,
you're so cute. I
yeah,
love it.
that's profound. So how long did it take like working with this one individual?
Well, she turned him around in, I would say, about 6 months.
Wow.
I
That's
mean, it's amazing.
profound.
That's what I mean. It's like almost like sometimes I have to watch, you know, that savior implant, like, no, you are not Jesus. But
Yeah.
honestly, between you and I, sometimes I feel a little bit like him, because it's like miracles. But I really do know it's not me. It's like that perfect cooperation with the right practitioner, and then the right motivation, the right time. You
Mhm.
know, it's definitely them that have to do the work. And I think so often in any area of our life, what stands between us and what we want is discipline and the work. We want the
Mhm.
pill. Do you have the pill? 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 It's like,
Yeah.
stop looking for the pills. You guys are wasting so much time. Just do it. Do the work, you know?
Yes. Lead yourself and set the intention to do
I
so.
love that.
Yeah.
I love
Oh
that.
my goodness. I love it. So what other cases have you been able to shape shift for individuals?
You know, I work a lot with animals, love animals, have a lot of animals. You know, I've had as simple cases as, you know, a heartbroken cat owner whose cat just had a litter of kittens, and she's like, you know, my cat is at nursing and these kittens are starting to die, and what can I do? And in just like a 10 or 15-minute look, I'm like, okay, do this, do this, do this. And the cat starts nursing. So those kind of, I've had a horse that was um condemned to death by the vet. The vet said, this horse has colic, it's just going to die. There's nothing I can do. I've done all the, they do weird things with horses I'm not going to go into, but all the weird things and all the medicine, and the horse is going to die. And here's another spiritual example. The horse was possessed. So first of all, I removed the spirits, and second of all, I said, do ABC, some physical things that the vet wasn't addressing. And the woman's like, and I have these testimonials on file. She's like, OMG. She's like, my horse is like interacting with the other horses. It's running around the paddock. And again, like, you just have to be like, that's not you. That's not you, because it's just so cool to see all these. I have a really dramatic one. I was on the playground.
Wow.
This is one of my first cases, and it's one of my most dramatic. And so I didn't have the confidence I have now. Maybe I'm overconfident now. You know what I mean? Once you've been doing things a while. But back then I was like, kind of like, I might be good at this, but I'm not sure. And I was on the playground with my kids. And one of my friends called me up, and she's like, I'm flying my daughter up here. And I'm like, that's nice. I hope you have a good time. She's like, no, this involves you. And I'm like, how? And she said, well, she's a medical mystery. She's dying. She's in her 30s. She has 2 kids. She's married. and they don't know what's wrong with her. And I'm like, what do I have to do with this? And she's like, you're fixing her. You're helping her. You're solving this. And I
Wow.
am like, and I just remember feeling, as beautiful as the miracles are, I remember feeling like stone cold, like my whole body froze. Like I didn't want that. I mean, I'm just being honest. I didn't want that responsibility. I
Yeah.
didn't want to do it. But when it's your friend, so I spent, and I wouldn't need to do this now, but back then, again, it was, early in my career, I spent a day and a half with her. We found what was wrong. And again, she did the stuff and she canceled her exploratory surgery where she was going to go to Pennsylvania. They were going to cut her open from head to toe because they didn't know what was wrong with her. And so about the time I want to quit because of the negative part of this business, I get one of those beautiful stories. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's why I do this. That's why I do this.
Yeah. What is the negative aspect of the business, if you don't mind sharing?
No, the negative well, one of the negative aspects of the business is what I call, what have you done for me lately? So literally people will come to me and they'll be in like, second or third. I don't work a lot with cancer because of the liability, but I will sometimes depending what the situation is. So we'll work and they'll be like, they'll get like remission or, cancer-free diagnosis. And then they're like, 3 weeks later, they're in my inbox and they're like, I'm so upset with you. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because I still can't sleep. And I call that the what have you done for me lately? Like you don't remember that you were dying like 2 months ago and now you're complaining because
Wow.
you can't solve everything at once. You can't.
No.
And we may never be perfect emotionally, perfect mentally. As a matter of fact, I highly suspect we never will. Perfect spiritually. And, there's always going to be those things that we need to tweak or look at or reevaluate. And so sometimes, again, that wait where once you do have a successful part in a part of their transformation, they put so much expectation on, well, you didn't fix my marriage and you didn't fix my sleep. And it kind of makes me, I'm like, really? Like, really? Could we review? So I get a little frustrated with that. I mean, I don't want them to like bow down and like kiss my feet, but just like acknowledging that we've come a long way and we've done a lot of work together and there's been an energy exchange and it's valued, we just don't, as people, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a parent or a spouse or a child or a friend, as people, we forget, that's why I think this is one of the reasons why people stay in abusive relationships. I think it's
Mhm.
this profound ability to forget, not necessarily forgive, but to forget and kind of just snap back into the routine of life, that causes things like this. So that's one of my frustration. And again, I think where I am now is so advanced. So a lot of people come into me cold and they're like, they complain because they're like, you just talked for a half hour about everything wrong with me. And I'm like, well, why would you should have told me, because I can also talk about for a half hour, an hour or 2 hours, everything right with you. But why would you spend the money? So I get frustrated with kind of that. They get like upset when I tell them what they paid for. Am I making sense? They get mad.
Yes, for sure.
They're like, there's so much wrong with me. I'm so depressed. And I'm like, well, tell me like half and half, or tell me like, I mean, I guess I'll take your money, but it just doesn't serve them. I mean, everything that's right with them, they intuitively already know how to balance. That's why it's right?
Yes, for sure. And if they are wanting to come and receive support, then it would make sense that you would share with them the things that you see that would be supportive for them to receive help from.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So those are just a few of the little, I mean, usually and then, you always have people that are like, you suck. And you're like, okay, thanks. Thanks for that. You can't win them all, you can't have 100% fans. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's interesting, but I've been in it a long time. So I kind of roll with the punches at this point.
Yeah, for sure. It's also, I mean, very similar to the work I do. It sounds like it's very intangible, right? So sometimes people are
That's a good
looking for the
point.
tangible results, and it's like,
Good
well,
point.
it's like the energy. Well, I mean, cancer is tangible, like
Right,
you're
right,
curing the
right,
cancer or helping the body
right.
heal from
Sure.
the cancer. But
Right.
yeah, oftentimes it's more intangible.
Right. Yeah. And thankfully, we do have some tools. Like I do have the aura, and I can be like, okay, here is like a dirty aura, and here, look how bright the colors are. So I do have some tools that they can visually see, but we do want to feel it. I mean, I want to feel it too. I want to feel good. I don't just want someone to say you're good. I'm like, but I don't feel good. Like I want to feel, I want that to be consistent. So I get it.
Yeah.
But it is hard to measure. And it takes time. I mean, how long did it take them to get to this point of, dysbiosis or imbalance? And one thing, I see, which I know you work with, is the nervous system's on in everybody, like, I don't know, maybe 1 out of 50 people, it's off.
Mhm.
It's not, I call it screaming on, like high alert. Like, I mean, that takes a while even to retrain them and retrain the body and retrain the brain and, to be calm, chill out, relax.
Yeah. I want to go back to the horse because I'm just like blown away, like that you are able, not blown away that you're able to connect, but blown away that there's like dark entities on animals too.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people, I guess I have a different view of animals just because, and it's evolved over the years because of the work I do, because I'm able to see what's inside a body. So, you know how some people are like, oh, that's an empty person, or that, not animals all have souls. And that's true. I found not all animals have souls, not all people have souls. And so I think it's a lack of an understanding of our reality and how the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth dimensions work. We just have these like kind of old ways or old legends of how things are. But now we have the technology to actually measure this stuff, and it doesn't match with, previous teachings or previous observations. And because I'm in thousands of people's fields every year for a number of years, years after year after year after year, I'm able to compile like a large amount of data, and that I don't think other people have, because if you're not looking at it, you're not asking the question, you can't get the answer. So I
Mm-hmm.
started asking the question, wait a minute, does this person, and I wrote a whole little thing about it. I call it fire creation. If you have an eternal soul. And so I wrote a whole little thing on it. So now I look, I look and see if animals or people that I work with have what I call a fire creation or a spirit or a soul in them. It doesn't
Wow.
matter if they don't, because and also my family works in human cloning and the transfer of human consciousness. So that helps me ask these questions too. And I know that's like advanced stuff that a lot of people aren't familiar with, but you will be familiar with it very soon if you're not already. I mean, I know we already are starting to hear about it and have for a while. But yeah, I just think we don't understand how all that works. But I came in through the door of the paranormal too, way before I was a naturopath. I was using my psychic abilities to clear houses and people, and I did my first exorcism when I was 20. So I've always had an interest in how many beings can be in someone, what kind of beings. So, to apply that to animals, when one of my dogs died and I watched the soul leave her body, like right in front of me, I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But this animal seems a little different, and so we're able to measure this. I mean, you would imagine if you have an eternal life force inside of you, you would guess it would be measurable, right?
Mm-hmm.
By something, by some kind of instrumentation, and it is. And so they just don't tell us we have this technology, and really nobody uses it like I do. So just because I like to go really extreme with things. So
That's so cool. Oh my goodness, I could be here with you all day.
you ask great questions. Like nobody's asked me half these questions. So you're asking really good questions.
Well, I'm really inspired. So I used to be a nurse in my past life. I call it my past life. But
Oh,
I've been with many people who've passed on, and I can literally I've seen the soul leave the
you
body
have
too.
too.
Oh yeah, I felt it and I've seen it.
That's
So
so cool. I love that.
so
Oh, wow.
cool. Yeah. So I would love to drop into this whole concept around um, individuals not having a soul because
Okay.
this is profound because I have always believed this. I don't know if everybody would believe this, but my family, my dad's side are very spiritual. My aunt
Mhm.
lives on the 5D. And
I love
but my
that.
dad would call these people like the fillers. And
Oh, yeah.
so
NPCs. NPCs. That's
yeah.
what I call. Yeah.
So let's drop into this. Like who are these people that do not that come here without souls?
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm not sure if they come here without souls, or, I know a lot of people are familiar with the concept of walking in, walking out.
Hmm.
Like, for example, my son-in-law, I've only known him 10, 11, 12 years. He's been married to my daughter, and he's walked out like 12 times. As a matter of fact, he just recently walked out, and I literally to his face call him New John. And he takes it because he knows he's walking in and walking out, and his personality. Well, I used to work for the heart transplant team, and you'll understand this if you're a nurse. So I, for Ohio State University, so I used to see, because I would spend hours and hours and hours prior to the surgeries, prepping, testing, all this stuff with these clients. So I knew them very well. And then after the surgery, we also spent, as you know, post-op care. hours and hours and hours with these same patients. And the personality changes were bizarre. There was no one that did not have personality changes, food changes, drink changes, hobby, music. Like you would see like a, 60-year-old man and he would want to listen to like rap. And I am like, what is going on here?
Wow. Yeah.
And so I started, it's all of that stuff kind of combined together. Like it was almost like they became part of them and part of somebody else, which is interesting because they're literally getting a different frequency
Yeah.
being organ put in them, right?
Yeah.
And so, that was kind of my, my first thing. But as far as the soul thing, really, when my relatives get a paycheck for human cloning, so they're literally creating, this is just wetware. I always tell people it's like a cup, it's a container, and it can hold anything, or it can hold, just like my coffee cup can hold what? You don't know. Is there something in here or not? You don't know, do you? There
No.
is, but you don't know. And I didn't know till I looked. So sometimes we have to look. And how do
Right.
we look? You can see it in the eyes. So I
Mm-hmm.
believe there's a lot. And then this goes even further back. So I was raised evangelical Christian. My dad's a pastor. So I was raised, God created the world, yada, yada, all the stuff you go know. And so this is a huge awakening for me to come out of religion, believe that this is a simulation, and then start to look for. So it's interesting when you have a different filter, what you see, than when you have the religious filter where you're not even willing to look. Because you're
Mm-hmm.
not even encouraged to look. At least I wasn't. I should speak for myself. If you have like that certain, religious filter of what the world is. So
Mm-hmm.
once I understood that there's, you're watching the Matrix movies or whatever, which they always say are documentary, and then talking to my relatives about how, now they 3D print them. They don't even do the cloning takes anymore. They just 3D print bodies. Well, when they 3D print a body, there's nothing in there. They have to put something in there. So it's just super interesting and super deep and super crazy. So
Mm.
because I know that's true, and also my ex-fiance worked for Area 51 in the lab, and he worked in the cloning center. So I have a lot of information about cloning and about like all the military, black ops stuff that most people don't know. And so, putting that together and then just observing, and I do paranormal photography. So because I have the sight to see through like the eighth, ninth dimension, I get pictures through the eighth, ninth dimension. So I could take a picture of somebody, and it's not even, so there's whole categories we haven't even been taught about. So we haven't been taught that there could be elementals, there could really be werewolves, there could really be vampires. I'm not, there's a reason why some of these things are huge and have huge books and huge historical evidence and huge fascination and series and stuff. And I know we're going all over the place, but so I get pictures of beings that are trolls, and I get pictures of beings that are tortoise beings, and I get pictures. I'm talking about like, if I took a picture of you, which I know you're not, but if I took a picture of you, we think our cameras reflect what the camera sees. It actually doesn't. The way it works is your cameras on your phone reflect how you see the world. So as your psychic abilities increase, then you get better, what we would call class A paranormal pictures or class A EVPs. So it's really interesting. Everything's kind of the opposite of how we've been told things work. So I have a lot of evidence. And then the big thing now, which is terrifying, since you know what I mean, we went through the big, is ghouls. So I see a lot of people with no eyes. Like when I take their picture, they have sockets, no eyes, like just ghoul, empty beings, which I could send you those pictures. I have hundreds of them.
Far out.
I know I'm sorry guys, we took a like weird
No,
left turn off the cliff there.
it's all good. So what do you do when you see these photos?
I mean, I just collect them, and I do videos. I do make videos. I do teach classes, like my private groups. I show them, and I show them people they know that they think they know. So what I always joke, but I'm really not joking. I'm like, you don't know who you're sleeping with. Like even your husband or wife could literally be, if you don't have the sight or the perception, or if you're not tuned in, to things like that, your mom, your dad, your kid, your animal, whatever, they can all be empty beings, or even more sinister than that, and so it's just really, really interesting. I'm still kind of in the, I would say, height of my research,
Mhm.
but it's pretty interesting.
That's fantastic. I'm so intrigued. I'm so intrigued. So you meant you have four daughters, is that right?
Yeah, I do. I have four daughters. Mhm.
So do any of them have your gifts?
They all have different gifts. My oldest daughter, I always say she's like ghost whisperer. I
Mhm.
see, and I see better now, of course, than I used to, because the more you use it, the better it gets. And, the more expanded you get and connected, it also gets your gifts come in and turn on, because we all have them. But she sees like 100% of the time. So it was really hard working with her when she was growing up, because she was always so terrified, because she sees beings everywhere, like driving down the street. She's like, look, 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 look. And I'm like, we gotta learn to turn this off. Like,
Yeah.
so that you can turn it on. And so she's learned now to turn it off. But she's great for me to bounce things off of. She's very psychic. We both read timelines, so we can both do accurate future predictions. We both help people with their businesses, and what they have to do to make money. So we both kind of have similar running. My one daughter's an empath, and she merges, which is kind of hard on her. She completely merges. She merges with animals, merges with people. I have another daughter who she writes I don't even know what, like ancient Sanskrit, since she was like 2,
Wow.
like just like pages and pages and pages of like, and she like channels like pictures and scenes that like come true. Like she's like a prophetess or a seer or something. So they all have their own gifts. Then I have another daughter who's just like the most awesome manifester. She's like in medical school on a full scholarship for the whole time she's there, and she gets $40,000 a year because she got a perfect score on her MCAT. I am like, okay, I can't with you.
Oh,
Like, I just can't with
good
you.
for
So they all have
her.
their own like magic, you know?
Very cool. Very cool. You mentioned when your one daughter is an empath and she emerges.
She merges,
What do you mean by
like,
what do you mean?
well, I can do that too. I just learned not to. That's why I love the tech that I have now, because I feel like I call myself the lazy psychic, because I can put the tech between me and you. I don't have to go into you, which, it's funny. I didn't think about this till recently, because I'm always like, oh, I can merge with anything, any place, anytime, which I still can. I don't as much because I have the tech, but I can. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, when I merge with someone, what is that called? That's actually called possession, right? If I'm inside you,
Mm-hmm.
that's actual possession. I never thought of it that way till like the past couple months. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I don't do that very much anymore. But you know what's funny? Let me tell you something really crazy. And it's just a way of like shifting your perception slightly. So, you know how the Bible, says two shall become one? Like if you get married and you sleep with your partner, and of course you don't have to get married, but you know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
have sex with someone or you sleep with someone, it says you become one. When you do, you actually become half them and they become half you. So when you break up or you divorce or you end that relationship, it's very, very important that you give back to them energetically, them, and you
Mm-hmm.
get back all of you, or it'll mess both of you up. And that's why we see a lot of problems with exes and with like weird, there's just a lot of weirdness with attachments or with stalking your old ex and, stuff like that. We see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that because there's still that energetic merge, so we all do it, not just me, you guys, but we all do it. We just don't, mothers merge with their kids too, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. This is so fun. I could just literally be here all day with you.
You're so cute. Well, you have an
So it sounds
intelligent mind, so I love it. Yeah, you have an inquisitive mind. It's cool.
it sounds like there's a wide variety of ways to work with you. Is that correct? I mean, you've put in all the way from working with animals to people with autism to businesses. So,
Oh yeah. Basically, it's like one-stop shopping. I can pretty much help you with anything.
yeah.
Even do some work with soulmates and relationships, because I can see timelines. So like if someone's like alone and single, and they're like, will I ever meet anybody? All I have to do is look at their timeline that they're on, and I can see people standing in like a row in their timeline. So I can be like, you have 7 people between now and when you pass. You have 3 people. There's never been anyone that doesn't have anyone. And then we could go in the whole soulmate versus good partner conversation. But a lot of people have great partners that aren't necessarily beings that they've been with before in any realm or reality. So I think most people are just looking for a good partner. I don't think you have to have like this grand, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
multi-million year relationship that you meet, in this incarnation. But yes, I do
Hmm.
all kinds of things.
Very cool. Very cool. So, how can people connect with you, work with you, all the
Yeah,
things?
secret to everything.com. I have a YouTube channel, Secret to Everything, Kimberly McGeorge. You can Google me. I have a monthly group. I mean, you can buy a scan, you can buy a little tiny affordable email reading if you want to try me out. I mean, it's all there.
Hmm. Amazing. This is so great. So I will ensure that all of your details are in the show notes.
I appreciate it.
So a great question I ask at the very end is if someone is feeling like quitting or throwing the towel, what is a message of hope that you could offer them?
Oh gosh, you're like talking about me. Like that's been me so many times in my life. I think I have two sayings. One thing I always say, you never know what's around the next corner of your life. And my
Mm-hmm.
second favorite saying is, you can choose again. You're not
Mm,
trapped in a bad marriage. You're not trapped somewhere you don't want to live. You're not trapped. I mean, we aren't taught that we can, but we can. And it's not always as hard as you think. And I think it's the fear. For me, it was always that fear. But like before I got divorced, I'm like, I can't be a single mom of 4 kids. And my friends are
mm,
like, you already are. And once I
right.
changed my perspective, I'm like, wait a minute, what am I afraid of? I'm already doing it. I can do it. And
Right.
I know this is gonna, some people will or won't resonate with it, but when I got divorced, it was like the world lifted off my shoulder and my whole life opened up and the angels came and sang it was the best. I should have done it like the day after I was married. So it's this programming and this fear that holds us. And I'm not, you can apply that to any area of our lives. And so there's infinite hope. Um, yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I didn't feel like I started living till I was 43. And my life is amazing, like expanded, full of joy, super thankful.
That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yes, perspective is everything, isn't it?
Everything.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, Kimberly. It's been such a joy to have you here. And I know Dropped In Community is going to be obsessed with this episode, that's for sure.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for your delightful questions.
Thank you.